Hi, and welcome to the podcast for Solomon Staircase Masonic Lodge number 357, where we talk about all things related with Freemasonry, including Hermetic teachings, philosophy, reason, spirituality, and much more. We're located in Buena Park, Southern California. Tune in as we continue to update our podcast with informative talks and articles for Masons worldwide and those who would like to inquire within.
All right. Well, good evening. We are here with Worshipful Charles Hayes, also known as Chuck to those of us in the lodge. And we've got a few questions. Let's get to know a little bit about Charles or Chuck. So, Chuck, good evening.
Good evening.
We've known each other so long, it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Let's see. So, what got you interested in Masonry originally?
Well, I think that my tour in the military kind of got me a taste of being part of something bigger than me. And for many years after that, even though I was involved in a lot of professional organizations and such, just didn't seem to fulfill that void that was left when I exited the military. So this presented itself in an odd way, and I embraced it and really enjoyed being with the brothers and started to get more into the aspects of how the lodge runs and the officers and everything, and decided, this is something that I want to be part of. It's an organization that does good things. I always like the fact that our mantra is to make good men better. That's always been something that I've been interested in mentoring other men or younger men that were in high school age or college age that I've mentored before in the past. So it really helped me to get that feeling back of belonging to something that's bigger than me.
Okay. So you tried other things, probably like what, Rotary, Key Club, stuff like that first?
Yeah, I was in a lot of other professional organizations that met on a regular basis and, had mixed company and did a lot of great things, but it just didn't have that same level of fulfillment as I don't know, as a man, I'm going to say, to belong to a fraternity. And I've never belonged to a college fraternity before, so I can't compare those two. But, I was really glad after I did get into it to find that there were so many other, not just like-minded people, but men that really were adept at expressing their ideas and their concepts, and not only expressing them, but putting them into motion to make it a better world. So it worked out really well for me.
Cool. So how long have you been a Mason?
I think it's going to be 18 years very shortly. I think I'm like 17 and a half years right now, a little over that.
Now, have you always been at Solomon Staircase?
No, actually, I was initiated, passed, and raised at Artesia Sunrise number 377 in Artesia, California, not too far from our lodge. But at that time, I wasn't really sure what my destiny was going to be in Masonry. So for the time, first year and a half, I think it was that I was there, it suited its purpose. But when I decided I wanted to get in the officers line, I realized that I needed to have my business, my home, and my lodge in a very finite circle so that I could manage it all. That was just the way that I found worked for me. And so, yeah, that's where I started. And then I met a couple of guys that are long since laid down their working tools, but you know them very well. Worshipful John Reynolds, Worshipful Henry Nowlin, and Brother Bert Spencer, who were going to the Bellflower Officers School of Instruction every Tuesday and eating donuts and having coffee. And being that I owned my own business, I could take the time off. And I was actually in the process of studying to qualify for senior deacon at Artesia Sunrise when I met these three. And they persuaded me to move from one lodge to the other. And it fit the model that I was looking for, being the closest lodge to my home. So, and the icing on the cake was when Bert Spencer came to me and he says, "You want to join our lodge because we're the best." And you can hear him saying that in his voice, right?
Yep.
He was a commensurate carpetbagger to me. I
Yeah.
say that in an endearing way, of course.
I was gonna say Bert was never master, right? But he knew every line for every role in every degree.
Oh yeah, he was a master ritualist, that's for sure.
Yeah. Wow. So now, obviously, you're the master now, but have you held every line in the officer's line, every position?
I think the only ones that I haven't held would be marshal and treasurer secretary. I think those are the only three that I haven't actually been installed at, or I shouldn't say been installed, but been either appointed or not necessarily installed. Of course, that would be quite a few years to do all that, but
Yeah. I was gonna say because I know a couple times, at least I know many times, I should say, that you've actually acted as marshal. So it may not have been installed in that position, but acted in that position to
right,
receive a Grand Lodge member or for some other ceremony.
yeah. Yeah, it's a interesting position because it does have some ritual to it that, as you know, I enjoy. But yeah, I think I went from junior to senior steward in like a month and a half. And then another month and a half later, I was sitting in the junior deacon's chair. And I was there for the remainder of the year and was, like I said, studying to be installed as senior deacon at Artesia Sunrise when I got swooped up and taken off to Solomon Staircase.
So it went from 377 to 357.
Yeah.
So now what years have you been master besides current?
2009, 2010, and 2012.
So what happened to in 2011? You went 9, 10, 12.
Well, I had done a back-to-back, so I kind of needed to have a little bit of a break. And my first year as master, my senior warden was a past master from a lodge in Arizona, and he was very much a part of our lodge. Um, he would sometimes trip up on his ritual and do what we used to call the tumbleweed ritual, being as he was from Arizona, somewhat different than ours in California. But his wife passed away in February of 2009, and I kind of lost him for the entire year after that. So without a senior warden to ascend the next year in 2010, I ended up going back to back, as you're well familiar with how that goes.
Yep.
So yeah, I didn't mind it. It's really funny because I know there's an adage out there that says, you're not qualified to be a master until you're a past master, and you really do learn a lot during that first year. That if you do another year back to back like that, it sure is a lot easier because you learn one major thing that's going to help you in your year, and that's to delegate and
Yeah.
not try to do it all yourself because it can be a
Delegate.
monumental task. And that's what I try to teach the guys now as the outgoing master and as the officers coach to, hey guys, this is not the hardest thing in the world that you're ever going to do, but it's also takes a little bit of finesse and a little bit of thought and a little bit of leadership and a little bit of coaxing and coaching, and it's everything when you're the master of a lodge. You have to be the commensurate leader, politician, you know reins holder, all the adjectives and adverbs you can come up with.
Cat herder.
Yeah, cat herder. Yes, that becomes one of my more uh, disliked positions. I should say.
So 2009, 10, and 12, and now it's 22. So what happened? How'd you end up again as master in 22?
Well, this guy who I was sitting in for just for as a placeholder, kind of up and left, went to Nevada somewhere up there where they have Alina roam free, and I enjoyed it. I mean, I embraced it from the standpoint of letting the senior warden kind of have free reign to facilitate programs and ideas and, put them in the ground and cultivate them and water them and have them ready to be harvested by the time he took over in 2023. And I would just, manage the things that have to be done and do the ritual work that has to be done and, line up the different programs that have to be done by the Edicts of Grand Lodge.
Mhm.
And that's pretty much what I've done. Other than that, it's been kind of, what you might term as a lame duck. I wasn't after much of anything other than just to, get us through this year and let some fresh blood, which I'm very happy to tell you that, we have a lot of new guys that we've initiated, and some passed and 2 new ones actually raised in 2022. So going forward, hopefully we'll have some good officers. One of them's already been elected to the Hall Association, and he's going to be a very balanced part to that organization. So I'm very happy about that. And the other Master Mason is looking to get into the officers line. So,
Wow.
not everybody, as you know, is cut out to be an officer or wants to be an officer. Being a Master Mason is important to embrace and to realize that, we are the beehive and there's plenty of things that need to be done besides getting in the officers line. And hopefully as we bring these guys through, I mean, as candidates or entered apprentices, they're coming and getting involved and
Yeah.
learning and understanding things. We've really made it our mission this year to by the time that they get to Master Mason, that they really know everything about how a lodge runs, and why things, why different parts of the lodge are set up the way they are, even though a lot of that's in the monitor. They still, you can read that and still not really grasp the concept unless you really have someone explain it to you.
So would you do it again? Sit in the East?
I mean, if I had an opportunity to do it again and it was at the will and pleasure, I guess I would step up if needed. I'm going to try to focus my attentions towards other parts of Masonry, hopefully going forward after my tenure here in 2022. And got some new ideas for my business that I'm working on. It's going to take up a little bit more time. So my position as officers coach will stay the same, I'm guessing. But other than that, yeah, I'm not going to be volunteering anytime soon. I don't think. I think we got at least 3 years before that's going to happen. So
I think officers coach, probably every jurisdiction has that, but just in case they don't, what exactly does an officers coach do?
well, an officers coach is someone that is appointed by the district inspector, and he is the one tasked with the trickling down of any ritual changes and floor work and really everything that's involved in everything from opening and closing a lodge to all the degree work to receiving a Grand Lodge officer to presenting the flag and doing it correctly per the ritual. And it's not hard, but it's like playing the piano. If you don't bang on the keyboard, you can't play the piano. So it's somewhat a challenge to get guys to come to practices so they can be proficient. But I mean, most of them are very open to coming and learning how to do it right. And it's very hard for me to ever think of walking away from that part of the lodge, because I do enjoy teaching the ritual a lot, as my predecessor, John Reynolds, used to do. Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy it. That's a part of the lodge that's very important, but at the same time, you're kind of in the background tending to the flock, as you might put it, and just making sure that everything's going in the right direction. At least, it's not always going to be smooth sailing, but at least if we're moving in the right direction, that's how I try to, gauge it.
So it sounds like you have a lot of good parts. Is any negatives to being an officer's coach?
Just like I was mentioning before, it's sometimes difficult to get guys to come down and practice the ritual. So if they don't practice it and they don't know it, then they kind of try to fake their way through it. It's obvious to me. It may not be obvious to a lot of the bystanders, or it's obviously not obvious to the candidate, but to uh, be an officer is something that I hope every man that enters into that realm takes it seriously enough to learn the ritual correctly. And so I guess the hardest thing is when you want to help someone, but they just don't want to invest the time at home or to
Yeah.
come to the lodge and get the instructions. So it's not a disappointment. I wouldn't go as far as saying that, but that's obviously my purpose is to get them educated in the proper ways of performing the ritual. And when they don't, it's a little bit disappointing.
Yeah. So let's go the other side. So you've been a Mason for almost 18 years. What's one of your favorite memories or two?
Oh God, I don't know. I mean, we've done so many great things. I mean, we've had great I mean, for me personally, great constitutional observance programs where I've been the MC a couple times. Our public schools nights were always a big hit where I MC'd until I turned it over to Worshipful Diaz most recently. But I think, just some of the fellowship and camaraderie that we've shared outside of the lodge, in the kitchen, in the foyer, in the dining hall, or even, outside of the lodge, where, you and I have taken masonry to other parts of the world here in our little country, and just, gotten to see how other people do it and shared stories with them. And that's just one of the parts that I think I enjoy the most, is going other places and finding guys that are Masons, and you immediately hit it off and you immediately have this bond with them. So I think though, there's not any one thing. It's obviously a culmination of all those. But I think in the end, any person that doesn't experience all that is going to be disappointed in the end. But we should edit that. I don't want to say they're disappointed, but anyway.
Well, I mean, I think there's aspects where, we've had guys that have come in and, I think it turns out sometimes masonry isn't for everybody, and you don't know unless they tell you specifically exactly what they were looking for. But, we've had guys that come in and they seem, ready and raring to go, and they're there for their first degree, and then we never see them again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's unfortunate, and we've also lost a lot of good master masons due to relocations and job changes and shift changes, and a variety of other different things where it's not something that I'm sure that they planned, but it just happens that way. And unfortunately, it happens to a lot of the best guys that we've ever had in our lodge. So during our tenure, at least.
yeah. Well, I mean, at least you're picking up some new guys. So would you say two raised and two passed so far this year?
I think we've initiated a total of 6.
Wow.
And there's 2 that have already gotten their 3rd degree. And I think all the other 4 are still entered apprentices.
Okay. So you'd mentioned something like going on to something else in masonry. So what's next in your Masonic career?
I'm very much thinking about joining the Shrine. I belong to the Scottish Rite, and I've just not had the time to focus on it because my temple is in Long Beach, and that's Long Beach Valley, I should say. And it's not that far. It's not like I'm used to, but now that if my duties at Solomon Staircase diminish, then I'm going to have some more time. But I just feel like the shrine is something that I wanted to do someday, but I'm kind of running out of time. So I think I'm going to have to just kind of bypass the whole Scottish Rite thing for now and just go to the shrine and see what it's about. We have a couple members in our lodge that are, members of the shrine. They've had nothing but good things to say about it. So I'm looking into it. I'm not committing at this point, but I'm looking into it. So
Yeah, I know there's at the lodge I go to in Nevada here, a lot of the guys there are Shrine members, and they've been hitting me up for joining. The only downside of that is, we don't hit any traffic, but it's an hour flat drive, to get
yeah,
up to where the lodge is or the shrine is.
yeah,
Kind of, and then depending on the weather and stuff, that could be a really rough ride for an hour. So we'll
yeah,
see. We'll see if they do something in
yeah.
Carson City, I may look into that a little more.
Well, as far as both of us, then we'll just stay tuned.
There you go. Let's see. What would you have any advice you'd have for somebody who's interested in masonry?
Any advice I would have? That's kind of a difficult question because until you've tasted it, it's kind of hard to decide whether you like it or not. It's like ice cream, right? So, to a lot of people, especially in today's age, they get so much information off of the internet, which either does one of two things. It either intrigues them or it causes them to take a step back because of maybe their religion and get that whole cult idea swirling around in their mind, which obviously is not what we're about. Um, but I think that if more people would just come to us with an open mind and just see what we're about first, I think that's the best thing but it's very hard, obviously, because all the younger guys, most all of them are very computer savvy and have read something on the internet about us. And I tell them all the time, I said, look, I know you're going to see stuff. I know you're going to want to read stuff, but just if you can, just put it down. Wait till you get your third degree, because I'll tell you, half the stuff out there is true. The other half is false. And you don't know which is which until you become one. So don't make any judgments one way or another until you get involved in it and really know what we're about and how masonry in general, exists, because there's a lot there. There's a lot of stuff there. And, we have brothers that do deep dives into this esoteric type stuff and history of masonry. And brother Shivam just did one last week. And, I mean, there's stuff that I've even never heard of before, being a Mason for 18 years. Um, that's just not in my bailiwick. It's like my thing is the ritual. I let the other guys do the deep dives and I learn from them, the same way that I'm the master teacher as the master craftsman and the master of the lodge. I'm also a master student a lot of the times when it comes to some of the long-term esoteric things that are out there that are actually factual, but you again, you don't know till you know.
So, question just came to mind. I think another thing, a lot of jurisdictions, a lot of lodges don't own their own building. So
Right.
Solomon Staircase, so we own the building.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say are some of we'll do both sides, right? But starting with what are some of the benefits of owning the building?
Well, that's really easy. I mean, it's your home away from home. It's the place where you meet. It's the place where everything takes place. And up until recently, we had a church that was using our facility, and they weren't a problem other than the fact that their stuff was always everywhere. And now, effective 31 October, we have our lodge back, and it feels different. I don't know how to describe it to you, but you walk in and you feel like, oh, we're home again. Whereas before we had like a roommate. That's what I kind of equated it to, I guess. So I really like the fact that we own our own building, and that anytime, we need to get in there to whether it's, practice or just meet and have an adult beverage with a brother or something and a cigar, or whether it's to, do a work party or whatever, we don't have to worry about asking permission. We have the brothers that are allowed to be at the lodge have card access, and they can get into the building. And it's a great thing knowing that you have that asset also as a financial asset should you ever need it. Or in the world today, the finances are such that we could have probably borrowed money back a few months ago when the interest rates were super low, and we probably could have done a lot of work with that money, but it didn't go that way for us, so so be it. But it's nice to know that you have that financial asset, because like you said, not a lot of lodges have that.
Yeah.
Or the square footage or the property square footage that we have, which I think is unmatched by any I've seen in California anyway, other than Grand Lodge.
Yeah, we do have a pretty big lot there. I say one of the things I like is the fact that, there's times when I'm down in Southern California on a business trip, and I have quite literally just kind of looked and said, okay, so I visited a supplier, it's 1 o'clock. I can either drive back home, for a half hour, or I can drive over to the lodge. My key card still works, plug in there and just work from there, especially if it's a Wednesday or Thursday night when typically guys are showing up, and I can just plop down and I'll work till 5 o'clock till people start showing up instead of having to drive all the way back to, wherever my hotel is or wherever I'm staying and then come back again.
Yeah. Funny thing happened the other day, because as you know, you have more than one key card in the system. And I'm kind of getting Fabian kind of to be the backup should anything ever happen to me, or somebody younger to take over this stuff when I'm not around. And we were going through, and I think I was deleting some of the church and some of the old key cards that were no longer being used, like the contractor that we had and so forth. And so I'm scrolling through the names, and we come across this Harold the Javelina Hunter, and he's like, "Who is that?" I said, "Well, that's a long story. Never mind."
It's a long
Keep
story.
scrolling.
That's funny because that Harold the Javelina Hunter came from a trip that you and I and our significant others did when we went to Sedona together. And we also ended up going to a stated meeting at the lodge in Sedona. And if you remember, they were having like some sort of a festival or a barbecue fest or something like that. And they had like a dart game, a shooting game, pellet gun or BB gun, but shooting. So they had darts, shooting, and dice. And I think you won the darts and I won the shooting.
Yeah,
And people were like, what the heck, man? These guys show up from California and then win 2 out of 3. And the only one we didn't win was the one that's all luck.
yeah, Yahtzee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Although I was very confident with the dice over the last couple of days, if you hadn't noticed.
No, what's going on?
Oh, I was in Vegas for a
Oh,
trade
that's
show
right.
and to see Ed Crawley, and I drifted over to the craps table for about, I don't know, like 45 minutes, and did very well. Some kid was just rolled for about a half an hour before he sevened out.
Wow.
I was a beneficiary of that, so that was a good dice game to be at, where I won.
That's cool. Well, when you guys come up to visit here in December, I know you're going to be up in Tahoe, and then I gotta double check. I don't think the casino in town has craps. I think they have like it's actually like a machine with two big giant
Yeah,
balls, and it
yeah, I don't
bounces them
trust those
around.
things.
Yeah. So,
They
but
also have a
thoughts.
they also have a video one, and I don't trust that one either.
So it's interesting. I know we're getting off topic, but the video one, there's one that's used in the Indian casinos down in California, and a member of the lodge up here, his company does a lot of those. His
Oh,
biggest
wow.
customers are the Indian casinos because for
Yeah,
whatever reason, the law in California, they can't play with an actual ball. It has to be all digital for their craps.
right, right.
Interesting
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
All right. Well, as always, a great time chatting with you. I look forward to seeing you here in a little less than a month.
Yeah. Looking forward to hitting the ski slopes and trying out my luck at Harvey's, which in the past, many moons ago, was very good to me. So maybe that was just a warm up down there in Vegas. So we'll see.
All right, Worshipful. Well, thanks for the time. We'll see you
Okay,
here
Worshipful.
shortly.
Talk to you later.
Bye,
Thanks.
brother. See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you like what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a comment. We enjoy hearing from our listeners. If you really like what you heard, share this podcast with your friends and lodge members. Visit us online at solomonstaircase.org.